Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to NHL Tonight, first shift. Glad to have you aboard, and specifically glad to have you aboard as well. Bruce Boudreau in the house. I'm Jamison Coyle. I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, it seems like I'm seeing you every week. This is pretty good stuff.
I think you're stuck on my schedule, and I'm happy about that. But I'm glad you made it in. Treacherous roads out there with the snowfall, but you made it.
A good Canadian driver, he knows how to drive in these things, so I wasn't too worried, but it was a little longer than normal.
That's all right. Well, we're glad you're here, and it's certainly exciting times in the NHL and whatnot. How's the new year going for you? So far,
so good. Been an incredible amount of good hockey played, whether it's been juniors, whether it's been NHL, whether it's Winter Classic, whatever. There's been a lot on TV to watch and a lot to take in.
All right, so we'll dive into that throughout the course of the 60 minutes. But before we get going, we do have to bring in our fearless leader, JD Lindberg. There he is right there for a PSA here when it comes to this show. What do you got, JD? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Jamison. Coach, Happy New Year. Glad you made it in from PA. Treacherous roads out there. But yeah, Jamison, PSA to all the shifties out there. I say it a lot, but apparently I don't say it enough. My own mother did not know about the First Shift podcast on YouTube. Shout out to Betty. She came down to see her new grand dog, Birdie, over the weekend. But yeah, every day we upload this thing to YouTube. It's an audio-only podcast. You can get it on YouTube, like where you watch your videos of cats and whatnot, but also on YouTube Music. Download it like a regular podcast. Listen to it on your snowy drive home today. But yeah, that's all I got. Let's get to it.
It's all we need. The friendly reminder that the show is available in more ways to consume.
So JD, you're telling me your mom didn't know it was on YouTube.
Had no idea. Yeah.
So she doesn't watch the video either because you announce this every day too. So she doesn't watch this show and the audio.
She does watch, Bruce. She does watch. She's a busy woman though. Sometimes she's got it on her phone while she's out and about. The first day she was at the hairdresser, and she was complimenting me on the Roenick interview. Jeremy Roenick was our first guest.
Yes.
And I was like, all right, Mom. Like you're
really
diving in.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, finally I got to it. I was like, well, what'd you think about me? And she was like, wait, you were on TV?
Oh. Well, we found out in our pre-production meeting you're pretty low on the family totem pole, right? Because you mentioned that she came down to visit your dog first and foremost, the very new puppy, Birdie, as well as your her daughter-in-law, your new wife. So
That's
no
correct.
mention of visiting you. So.
No, yeah. I know I'm third place in that grouping, so but I'll take it. I'm glad to be on the podium.
All right.
Well, you got to be somewhere, right? The Czechs are happy they got at least bronze medal.
Yeah, they got a bronze medal,
That's
and our
right.
JD Lindberg got bronze in his own household. So appreciate the PSA. And again, friendly reminder, all those viewers out there, the shifties, I love that. You got to say it very carefully, though.
I was wondering where he was coming from with that.
Yeah.
I was thinking,
Swifties?
Taylor Swift?
Yeah.
What show are we doing right now?
You haven't gotten a friendship bracelet yet?
Haven't got it yet.
Okay. In due time. You just got to, do a couple more of these shows. All right, let's get off and running here before we get off the rails. How about first things first, and we'll start. You mentioned some really good hockey. How about last night? How about the last 2 weeks in Ottawa, culminating in this gold medal on the line in Team USA, getting it done in overtime. Teddy Stiga, first goal of the tournament. Could he have picked a better time to score that one?
Not only was it his first goal, it was his first shot on net in the tournament. So, and you know what I mean?
1,000 shooting percentage.
Yeah, 1,000, but kudos to David Carl for putting him out, quite frankly, a non-goal scorer in a 3-on-3 situation. That's pretty good. But you know what? If you're going to have a tournament, you want it to end in like Game 7 overtime, and that's what this was. So congratulations to the U.S. First time they've ever won it twice in a row, and it just really leads into next year, which I think is going to be spectacular.
Yeah, in Minnesota, they've already kind of passed the torch, so that'll be great. It's always a great event starting the day after Christmas. But you mentioned David Carl. It's amazing what he's done behind the bench in his short coaching career. A couple of national titles at Denver out there on the collegiate level, and then back-to-back, as you mentioned, gold medal championships at the World Juniors. You're starting to hear his name as far as NHL coaching jobs and whatnot. You've been in that same situation. What is that like? What is that transition like for him? Should he get an NHL job, let's say this summer or next season? What's the difference in coaching NHL guys versus collegiate guys, AHL guys, ECHL guys?
Well, I mean, a lot of times it's, first of all, it's a great feeling when you're in demand. I can tell you that. But I mean, it's you're coaching young men, and you have the hammer for everything. Once you get to the NHL, it's more of a give and take a little bit, because you got $12 million a year players or $10 million a year players, and you can't treat them like a 17-year-old freshman.
Right.
So I mean, there's a little bit more of the communication. Some of the guys are great at it, and the transition's been spectacular. Some it's a little more difficult, because I mean, you can't rule with that total iron fist, especially if you're new. If you're Scotty Bowman or you, John Tortorella, or you've been in the league for many years,
Right.
and you have that built-in respect,
have that pedigree, that resume.
you can do it. But if you're going to come in new, it's pretty difficult to jump in and be that heavy-handed. You got to, to me, deal with it through communication and earn that respect from the players.
And he's certainly proven that over the last couple of seasons. How about the respect that was earned Trey Augustine? You and I were doing the pregame show for that big one on New Year's Eve, USA versus Canada, and we were talking about Trey Augustine getting the start, but his save percentage was sub 900 at that point. But you said week 1 versus week 2 in the World Juniors is so different. It's not where you start, it's where you end. And where he ended up, he's the winningest goaltender all time for Team USA at the World Junior Championships.
Yeah, like it's not like you're sitting there and you're playing in the first week for a playoff position. You're playing for positioning, but you know you're going to play for in a quarterfinal round. So I mean, this guy won the cup last year, or won the World Juniors last year. So he's going, okay, let's not get too excited. I will get excited, and I will ramp up my game as it goes. And he ramped up his game tremendously, and now he's the World Junior, the winningest goaltender in U.S. World Junior history.
Yeah, it's impressive what he's done. Again, 3rd time he's been on the USA roster at these World Junior Championships. So he is certainly proven, and has 2 gold medals around his neck to prove that. The Boston College line certainly soaking up a lot of the attention, the spotlight. They were impressive. James Hagens, he's projected to be the 1st overall pick, deservedly so. He showed flashes of brilliance. Gabe Perreault, son of Yannick Perreault, great longtime NHL player, what he's done in this tournament as well as at Boston College. And how about Ryan Leonard, the guy that wore the C on his chest? Just leadership, leading by example. That top line, those trio right there, whether they're at Boston College for the Eagles or Team USA, they just have such chemistry, and it really, really showed its head.
Well, it really shows that sometimes when you're picking teams, it's good to pick people that are comfortable with each other. Like, I think Canada went the wrong way with that, but I mean, that's here nor there. The Americans did a fabulous job of recruiting, putting the team together, and everything else, and that's why they're successful champions. And they just got better as the tournament went along. Like, I mean, if it wasn't for the Finnish goaltender, that game would have ended an awful lot sooner. But it didn't, and they just stayed with it. And Boston College now, pressure's on. Like, I mean, if they don't win the NCAA, then
they did it last year, and they had a pretty potent top line as well. So.
Yeah, and you know what? And I think it was the year before, the 2 years before, that Michigan had like 5 or 6 number 1 draft choices on their team,
and all those
and
guys.
they didn't win. So I mean, you know what?
That's sports.
It's sports. It's one thing to be the best and have the best players, but you got to go out there and you got to play the game.
You see the goal leaders here, James Hagens and Ryan Leonard leading the way for Team USA with 5. Danny Nelson, he was kind of an unsung hero. He had 4. How about Cole Hudson? We should talk about him. So Ryan Leonard named MVP of the World Junior Championships, but Cole Hudson led all scorers in points. This guy's a defenseman. We know about his brother Lane Hudson and what he did at the collegiate level, as well as now playing for Montreal and doing big things at the National Hockey League. But his younger brother, I mean, he dances on the blue line like nobody else out there.
How about the Washington Caps? You don't think they're salivating right now? They got Ryan Leonard. They got Hudson. They're ready and primed. I mean, I don't know if either one of those guys are going to see Hershey. They might just jump right into the NHL when it's all said and done. And but that's a great testament to the Capitals scouting. And I think it when you look at it and how the Caps are doing right now, and how their future is. They got Calder Cup champions the last 2 years in the American League. They've got these 2 guys that are champions in the World Junior. And I think the last captain that I remember that the Caps had in the World Junior was John Carlson.
Yeah.
And he
worked
did
out pretty well.
Worked out pretty well for them. So I think they're doing it the right way. And, you know, I've said this before, and their scouting staff and everybody they're right on board to keep the Caps on, whether it's not on top, but relevant for a number of years to come.
Yeah. Well, they're on top of the Metro Division right now, so that's where they are. It's the best, it's the biggest surprise maybe in hockey this season with what the Capitals have done this year. And like you said, they might get the additions of a Ryan Leonard come playoff time, depending on how Boston College and that playoff push goes in the NCAA tournament. What's that like? If you're Spencer Carberry, are you keeping an eye on these kids in the World Junior Championships? Are you more focused on your team until these guys get there? And what's the biggest challenge for these young guys? And we've seen it so many times in the last couple of years, whether it's, some of the guys joining the Minnesota Wild, or we've seen Charlie McAvoy come right out of college and join the Boston Bruins. What's the hardest transition for these guys making that jump to the NHL, especially come playoff time?
You know what? The biggest thing is you're playing against men instead of young men. I mean, and that's the big, if you can handle that, if your body is like, I mean, for Leonard, he's a big enough, strong enough guy that I think he can fit right in. I think it'd be difficult for Hudson to come right in and play for the Caps in the playoffs because of the physicality that occurs in there. But I mean, to me, it's always been that that big change in going from boys to men. And now, as far as the coaches, does Spencer really? He knows he's out there. It's like I knew Kaprizov was out there.
Yeah, you'd heard of him.
I just didn't know if I'd ever get to see him when he was in Russia.
Come here quicker.
And who was the guy that did this for the Caps?
Kuznetsov, right?
Kuznetsov.
Yeah.
So I remember George McPhee sitting across the draft table saying, Bruce, we're going to take another Russian. I know you really like that. We had about 5 of them on our team as it was.
Yep.
And so he said, Kuznetsov, he says, but don't worry about it. We're going to see him in 3 years. And I'm saying, George, you know and I know that I won't be here in 3 years.
You'll see him. You won't see me.
Yeah. Oh. So I saw him at the summer conditioning camp a couple of years, but that was it.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Well, there's one superstar that you did see, and for quite the amount of years, Alex Ovechkin. We got the Capitals in action tonight against the Sabres, and what Ovi's doing, that goes into that whole incredible storyline of Washington this season, but scored another goal over the weekend. He's up to 872 now in his career. He's 23 goals away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's all-time record. You got a first-hand look at this guy on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Are you surprised with what Ovi's doing at this stage of his life?
Well, you know what? If you were asking me January 6th this time last year,
yeah,
I would have said there's no way because I think I don't even know if he had 15 goals at this.
I think he had 8 in December.
Yeah, and but he looks happy. He looks in better shape this year. He looks like he's sitting there and going, I want to do it this year. And the one thing I found out about Alex, whether he's 21 or he's 39, is that if he puts his mind to something, he can get it done. And I mean, there was times when he played through so many injuries, and he just said, put me out there, coach, I want to play. And he'd have that eye that you say, okay, you want to play, and you're going to go out there, you're going to get something done, and he did it. So, I mean, I think he's got that eye right now. You can call it the eye of the tiger, whatever you want to call it. But I think every game he comes out, he's playing with that drive that he's going to score. And he used to always believe that I'm going to score every game. And I think that's the way he's thinking right now. And he's the best thing about it, he's got a team that has got a lot of good players on it. Last year, everybody just focused on Alex because there was not a lot of scoring on that team, so it was tougher for him. Now they can't just. They've got scoring from the fourth line down to the first line, and their balance is so good. And I mean, their power play is scoring some goals. So I think he's going to get it done. I want to see him come down in the last 5 games and need 2 goals or something.
Can you imagine how fun April will be if they're in a playoff spot, which it looks like they will be, and he's chasing Gretzky's record? Like, what are the vibes in D.C. going to be like? I know you do a lot of broadcasts for the Capitals.
It's going to be incredible because he is the most, by far, Washington has a lot of football, basketball, women's basketball, and
baseball,
a lot of sports,
Nationals,
baseball,
all
all of that. He is by far the most popular athlete in D.C. And when it comes to breaking that record, and I mean, he's been there since, 06, 05? I mean, that place will go nuts. Yeah. And I mean, I wouldn't want to have to buy a ticket to get in if he's one shy and he's got a home game next.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable stuff. And since fracturing that leg, he scored in 4 of the 5 goals since coming back. I think a lot of people feared, like, this is going to derail his season. He was on such a torrid pace, and no signs of slowing down. If anything, he's only caught more fire. So it is Monday. We do have 4 games on the NHL slate tonight. We'll take a look at some of the matchups and some pretty good ones. The Capitals and Ovi and Gretzky's watch on the road tonight in Western New York, taking on the Sabres, Canucks, and Habs from Bell Center. Maybe the big matchup tonight, Panthers, Avs. The Avs are absolutely rolling right now. And last but not least, we've got the Devils out west on their road trip right now, a road trip that has not gone well. They've lost 4 in a row, taking on the Seattle Kraken. Let's talk about the Canucks and Canadiens. If Montreal wins tonight, how about this? They can be in a playoff spot. But we're talking Canucks here, who have lost 7 of their last 10 games, and some more news pertaining to that team. Quinn Hughes, a game-time decision Monday against Montreal. Tocchet doesn't think Elias Pettersson will play, but he'll check with him after the club's optional skate. What is going on with Vancouver right now?
Well, I think pretty well. First of all, Rick knows if Petey's going to play.
Yeah. He's toying with us?
Yeah. That optional skate is not really going to be the determination. Yeah. He already knows.
Okay.
But, I mean, and the Quinn Hughes thing is surprising because last week they were talking it week to week.
Right.
You know, and whenever you hear that, you think multiple weeks, but I guess in reality, it could be 1 week. And him coming back, and I mean, he is sorely missed. I think out of all the players in the NHL, Quinn Hughes is missed more when he's not playing by the Vancouver Canucks than any other player on any other team.
How come?
And, well, first of all, he generates more offensive zone time than anybody. He's #1 guy on the power play with them. He's #1 guy 5-on-5. He plays 25 to 30 minutes. Play goes around him. He is the best breakout defenseman in the league. He makes that first pass on the tape. And I think just for the whole offense of the Vancouver Canucks, and you can look at what their offense has done since he's been out.
Yeah, they're not good.
They're not good. He is the guy that, you know, if there's anybody that is the straw that stirs the drink,
yeah,
he is the guy for the Canucks.
All right, so hopefully he plays tonight in that game for Vancouver. Meanwhile, we know the drama that's, look, it's not looking good on the ice, but a lot of it has spilled off the ice and into the dressing room right now, and the drama between Pettersson and JT Miller. I know Pettersson had a interview with Ian McIntyre the other day and had some pretty poignant words about, you know, his play this season. He said, I know I can do better. I'll be the first one to say it, and I never think things will get easier. I haven't had the start to the season that I wanted. I have expectations from the club, and obviously I haven't met them yet. How much do you think the on-ice production from a guy like Pettersson, who we know can be a superstar in the National Hockey League, has been impacted by the drama that we hear happening off the ice inside that room?
I really don't know if it has much impact quite at all, quite frankly. I mean, I was coaching them 2 years ago, and I mean, the same problems that existed then exist now. And Petey had 100 points, and Miller was approaching 100 points. And I mean, they had the number 2 power play in the league, and they played on the same line.
So why do you think it's gotten to this point?
Because the media in Vancouver is nuts. They take everything and they build everything out of proportion. Like, I mean, look at every hockey player that's out there has played on a team that's, you know, not everybody has gotten along.
Yep.
And, you know, they got different personalities. But once you get on the ice, you're all like, you're not sitting there hoping the other guy fails.
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't happen.
You're all pulling on the rope for the same
And
goal.
if you look at the ice times, and the one thing I look at when I watch a lot of the Canuck games and the ice times and who's playing what, and Rick plays Petey 20-plus minutes a night. He plays Miller 20-plus minutes a night. And, I mean, when you're on the ice together, everything goes well. I just think they like to blow things out of proportion in Vancouver. When things aren't going right, they're making it the worst thing in the world. I mean, and it's not just since I've been let go. This has been going on in Vancouver. Yeah. You know, when I was in Washington and in Minnesota, they say, well, you think the press is here bad. Wait till we go to Vancouver and you see what's going on there. So, I mean, it's always they blow things out of proportion, I think. I think they're not friends. I don't think they go over to each other's house for dinner. But both of them are as competitive as any player I've seen. And they're both extremely good. And I would take both of them on my team at any time. They both bring you different things, but at the the same time, they're great hockey players. So I mean, I think that they're struggling right now, and I think one of the reasons they're struggling is because every time they probably look at each other now, they're thinking we're supposed to hate each other.
And we got to talk about it.
We got
to
to talk every single day. And Petey's a quiet guy. He doesn't want to talk about this anymore. But I will say this: Petey wants to be the best. Miller wants to be the best. I'll give you 2 examples.
Yeah.
When our penalty killing wasn't going good in Vancouver, and they wanted me to take both of them off of it. Both of them came to me at separate times. You know, when we were trying it on the ice with different guys, they said, get me in there. I was part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution here. And so they both want to get everything fixed, and they want to do it right. So I'm not buying, I'm buying that they're not the best of friends.
Yes.
But I'm not buying that it's
bad it is.
inhibiting their play on the ice for the Vancouver Canucks. So if that's the case, then that's a real troublesome thing. But I don't think that's the problem at all.
All right, we'll see. If we've learned anything in sports, winning cures all. So if they get a couple of wins, maybe the noise quiets down in Vancouver. All right, off and running here on NHL Tonight First
You're
Shift.
getting my blood boiling.
I love it. I could ask you one question for 60 minutes. Unfortunately, we're talking with the guy they call the Rifle next. Frank Vatrano and the Ducks, they're rolling right now, and he's got 18 million more reasons to be smiling. He joins us next.
Vatrano, the Ducks have doubled their lead. It's turning into quite a day for number 77. Again, a wrist shot attempt blocked by Vatrano, who then fishes it away from him. Can Frank get to it in the neutral zone? He'll pull up and play it over. He gets it back and scores. Frank Vatrano with a 3-point night on a day in which they announced a 3-year extension for number 77.
Well, you heard it right there. Frank Vatrano had himself a Sunday. Scores 2 goals in the win against Tampa, and earlier in the day signed a new 3-year deal, $18 million contract extension to stay put in Anaheim with the Anaheim Ducks. Frank Vatrano joining us now on NHL Tonight First Shift. And first things first, congratulations on the win as well as the new deal. Heck of a Sunday for you, huh? What was that like?
Yeah, a bit of a whirlwind. I know something that was in the works, but glad it's all done. And I couldn't be happier to be staying in Anaheim.
Hey, did it happen quickly, or was this something in the makings for a long time, and it was just culminated on Sunday, and then you played that day, so everything just came together in one day?
Yeah, it was definitely work in progress. We talked a little bit in the summer, and as the season went on, we kind of stayed in contact through that. And obviously, with the structure of everything, it kind of took a little bit longer. There's so many little details with the deferral and the money that I was taking home, and when it was explained to me, and it was something I definitely wanted to do, and it sets me up for the future, and it helps the team out also with the cap.
I want to ask you about that structure, because they're calling you the Shohei Ohtani of hockey right now with that deferred money and whatnot. And maybe it's a trend that we'll see more and more of coming up in the sport of hockey. But how did that come to be? Was it your initial idea? How was it presented to you? And why'd you, in the end, settle on doing something like that instead of maybe the more traditional route?
Yeah, it was something that was brought along to me by agent Peter Fish. It wasn't really even anything that was on our table before we were talking. We were kind of just talking about a regular deal, and then Pat Verbeek and Jeff Solomon kind of brought up the idea. Look at it this way: with the tax that you save, and at the end of the day, you're making more money than you would make at a certain dollar amount. So once we got to explain that and had some financial people on the phone calls and kind of explained it, it's a lot of money, and it's obviously paid in a different way. And for me, being financially stable for years to come with retirement, I kind of like the way that it's structured, and I think more guys should do it, especially with taxes in California and other cities in the NHL. I think you can try to benefit this way as much as possible.
I agree, but let's talk hockey here. Do you guys think you're there? How close are you guys now? You must be feeling it. You've been playing awful good recently, and I mean, it doesn't seem like the rest of the, whether it's the Pacific or even the West playoff spots, are running away and hiding. They're waiting for you guys to catch up, and that's what it looks like the way you guys are playing. That you're saying, hey man, we're almost there.
Yeah, just like you said, I think we have such a young group. We have a good amount of older guys too, so it's a bit of a mixed bag, and it's a mixed group of guys. So, our young guys played a lot of games last year, which helps with growing and learning how to play in this league. And this year they're making a big step, and they're getting acclimated to the NHL and what it takes to be a pro every single day. And for us older guys, we're just trying to help them every day. We're obviously trying to push for a playoff spot here, but at the end of the day, our goal is to be in the playoffs. But for us, we can't look too far ahead. We got to take it day by day, keep getting better every day. And I like what's growing here, and I like the way our team looks here for the future.
All right, instead of looking ahead, I'm going to look back. It was about a year ago this time that you were kind of getting ready. I don't know if you had been alerted to it yet, but getting ready to be selected for your first ever All-Star game, that game in Toronto. What has this last calendar year been like for you? I know you've got the young family. You're a first-time NHL All-Star. You're putting up career high in goals last year, and then you get the new deal. Put into perspective what the last 365 days have been like in your life.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind, especially with the way my careers went. Being undrafted, and I never thought I would ever be an NHL All-Star, let alone play 10 years in this league. And if it wasn't for my family, my parents, my brothers, my wife, I now have 2 kids. It's you play for something much bigger than hockey. You're playing for your family every single night, and my dad always says is represent the Toronto name well, and that's what I try to do every single night. And at the end of the day, just try to be a good teammate and be the best possible. But I wouldn't be there for my family and also for those guys here in Anaheim. We're such a great group, and I'm just excited to be a part of it.
Well said, and congrats on all the success. Congrats on the way the team's playing right now, and congrats on that new deal. We appreciate taking a few minutes on your off day, and good luck the rest of the season, okay?
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Frank Vatrano of the Anaheim Ducks. When we come back here on NHL Tonight First Shift, the NHL announcing the 3 stars of the month. We're going to tell you who stood out above the rest. That's next on NHL Tonight First Shift. Time now for the 3 stars of the month, presented by Geico. Your 3 stars, some pretty familiar faces on this list. Jacob Markstrom for the Devils. 3rd star, 8-1-1, .937 save percentage, and 2 shutouts. Leon Draisaitl at number 2, 10 goals, 14 helpers in 13 games. And your 1st star of the month, who else would it be? Nathan MacKinnon, 7 goals, 18 assists in 13 games. And the Avs are rolling right now. Lane Hutson, rookie of the month. We mentioned his younger brother. And like we said, Lane Hutson doing impressive stuffs at the NHL level. Let's start with the 3rd star of the month, the New Jersey Devils and Jacob Markstrom. This was maybe the biggest piece missing from this team and their success last year. They get Markstrom, they get Jake Allen, and so far so good for New Jersey.
Yeah, I mean that duo has been superior, and I mean they haven't allowed a lot of goals, and 8-1-1 in a month is going to get you in 1st or 2nd place in a close-knit league like the Metro, and I mean. The thing he gives them more than anything is he gives them confidence, because a lot of those veterans in New Jersey that have been around there with shoddy goaltending for the last few years. Now he's in there, they give him confidence, and the team obviously has played other than the last 4 games, has played up to those standards.
What does that do for a team, confidence-wise? I mean, obviously it's one thing to have confidence, but what does that look like on the ice when the team is playing in front of a guy that they know is going to make that stop?
Well, it's great because you can do things, and if you make a mistake, he backs you up. There's nothing worse than, if things aren't going right, and if I make one mistake, my hands are squeezing the stick, and then they score right away. You're feeling like you can't do anything that comes natural to you. It's basically you're playing robotic hockey. And I mean, with Markstrom in the net and a couple of these other great goaltenders, you just play loose and you play your game. And what got you to the NHL is the way you're playing. When you're playing, and usually with goaltending that's struggling, and that first shot or in the first 5 minutes one goes in, you see the players go like this, and now they start to play outside of their comfort zone, and instead of maybe forechecking one shift, they've got to stay back because they're afraid that if the puck gets behind them, then all of a sudden we're going to get scored on again.
They're thinking instead of reacting, right?
Yeah,
That's death in
100%.
sports. All right, Devils in action tonight. They've lost 4 in a row, second in the Metro right now, taking on Seattle. How about our second star of the month, Leon Draisaitl? Alone at the top, 29 goals right now, leading the Rocket Richard race. Next closest, couple of players with 23. Are you surprised at how often Leon Draisaitl is just up there in every single statistical category?
I mean, can you imagine if he was playing in New York or,
Anywhere else not with 97?
Yes, where 97 wasn't.
Yeah.
He'd be getting all this ink. Just a fabulous player, an incredible shot and release. And, some people have called him the best passer that's not playing center.
Yeah.
So, he is just a full complement and to this team. And for him to get 24 points, 10 goals in a month, that's Auston Matthews type stuff, and it's well deserved. Not only is it power play 5-on-5, it's every part of the game. Leon Draisaitl, every time he steps out on the ice, is somebody you have to look for. And you know what? I made the big mistake. As a coach, I was always focusing on McDavid, and which
Sure, a lot of coaches are. Yeah.
Easy to do. But then you forget about Leon, and Leon's the one that ends up beating you, and it's not Connor.
When you're coaching against the Oilers and they load up that line versus spread those two guys out, which would you prefer as the opposing coach? Load them up?
Yeah, I would want them to be loaded up, and the reason is twofold. Is one, then you can have your best defensive pair against both of them at the same time. You don't have to say, okay, one, D3 and 4, you're going against Draisaitl. 1 and 2, you're going against McDavid, or vice versa, or whatever. So it's not. They're great players, but it's an awful lot easier to check one line than it is to check
both of them, yeah.
Two lines or 3 lines or 4 lines. And I think it was a big mistake in the past when they did load them up, because it was almost like telling the rest of the Edmonton Oilers, hey, listen, you guys aren't that good. We're down a goal.
Take a seat. We're good here.
Take a seat. We're going to just put these 2 guys out there.
Yeah.
And, no matter who you are, you're the 13th forward, 12th forward, doesn't matter. You want to feel like you're an important cog in that team's success. So, and sometimes, not last year, but the years before, I thought that some of the Oilers didn't feel important because every time they got behind, they were just putting them together, and those guys were playing 25 minutes, and it was, we're just not that good.
Yeah, you think about last year's run to the Stanley Cup Final and 1 game away from winning it, and literally getting contributions up and down that roster. Obviously, the big boys played well in the Stanley Cup Final, but they were getting contributions from other guys as well. Last but not least, first star of the month, no surprise, Nathan MacKinnon, leading the league right now in points, 65, assists 51. This guy's been a superstar since entering the NHL, but it feels like the last couple of years, ever since Connor McDavid's kind of come into the league, he's elevated his game just as much, hasn't it?
Well, it looks like to me that he wants to be the best player. And when
he's close.
He's close. When you've got that kind of drive, he's got it. Because I remember it was 4 years ago that they lost out in the playoffs, and he said, I'm sick of losing. I want to win. And the next year they go out and win the cup. Now, they've had some major injuries that have kept them away from doing it in the last 2 years. They seem to be getting
look good now.
Quite healthy right now. And Nathan MacKinnon was one of 2 players, McDavid being the other, that when I was coaching, sometimes I would get lost just watching them.
As a fan?
As a fan,
Yeah.
look at how fast he's going. Oh, look at that play. Okay, slap yourself in the face. Let's get going.
Time to shut him down.
We got to shut him down.
Yeah.
And you would really focus on Nathan MacKinnon when you're doing your game plan, and how do we stop him? If we stop him, I know Makar's great, Rantanen's great, all these guys are great, but if we could stop him, we usually have a good chance of winning.
What makes him different from Connor McDavid? They're both elites and they both do very special things, but they are very different players.
They are different players. One is like, he's so fast, and you can see the wind going after he's going. MacKinnon is powerful.
Yeah.
He's if you're in his way, he's running over you. And he's not that McDavid doesn't run over you, but it's not like a 6'3", 220-pound.
This guy's a bulldozer.
He's a bulldozer, and you know what? And he still plays 25 minutes a game. I don't know how they do it, but he's still out there. He's got those iron lungs, and he's just a tremendous player. One's right-handed. I don't know if that makes any difference in being left-handed, because right-handed guys are harder to find, but and the one thing McKinnon can do, he does the stick handling an awful lot, but then he shoots off that or passes off that, and it's hard to read. And I don't know if that makes any difference or not. I'm just thinking about that at
the visual
at the time.
aspect, though, everything's so aggressive and, like you said, powerful.
He's so powerful, yes.
So fun to watch, and guess what? It's a treat. We get to watch him tonight. Heck of a matchup. Just 4 games on tap. You got the Avs and the Panthers, and you tell me, potential Stanley Cup final coming up in June?
I think it is a potential Stanley Cup final. And one of the reasons I say for the Panthers is they go into slumps. But, I mean, when they have to win, they win.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they can
Think
lose.
of the big games that they circle on the calendar, right?
Yeah, and they say, okay, timeout here. We've been playing very lackadaisical. It's time for us to get on, and then they'll win 4 or 5 in a row. Then they'll lose 2 or 3.
Don't we see that from the good teams that have kind of been there, done that? They know when to, not that they flip the switch, but they know when it's go time.
Well, when Tampa won their second cup, they didn't end up first. I mean, they just said, let's make sure we're ready for the playoffs right now. And they were. And the same thing goes for Colorado, is they had a rough start, and I think they're just rounding out into shape. But I like all 4 of these games tonight. I think there's really good storylines in all 4. Looking forward to all of them.
Look at the Avs and what they've done during that 7-game point streak. Lost in the shootout the other night, but 6-0-1, goals for 29, goals allowed 15, and the special teams working right now at 26% on the power play, 84% right now on the PK. Like you said, this team, it feels like the last couple of years, maybe no team more than Colorado besieged by injuries, but starting to get healthy, and it's a great sign seeing Landeskog back on the ice, taking part in team practices.
Oh man, if he ever pulled one of those Kucherovs where he misses the season and he's able to play in the playoffs, that would certainly be a boost. But the only difference is he hasn't played since 22. And, I mean, I don't care who you are. I mean, you got to be somebody really special to be able to jump back into the NHL after missing a couple years. The same thing, there's other players that have done it, but I mean, it's got to be tough, but I mean, it's worth the gamble if he can do it, because the salary cap doesn't come into play after that. So, I mean, hey, I hope it is. It's good for Gabriel. I mean, he's an awesome player, and he's a tremendous captain. But I think they're good enough to do what they want to do right now. Now that they've got their goaltending settled,
unbelievable,
too.
Right?
So I mean,
you overhaul the whole goaltending position in a span of 10 days. It's amazing.
Well, you look at that streak. I think it's not coincidental that it's with their goaltending has been changed.
Yeah, lead the league in Woods too. Miles Wood, Mackenzie Blackwood, Scott Wedgwood. I don't know. It's working right now.
You got way too much time on your hands.
I do, yes. Let's take a look at the 4th star of the month, Christina Vlasic, presented by Geico.
Do you ever wonder what goes on off the ice at the United Center? Come with me.
Each month, Geico and the NHL are finding the most devoted fan that gives more to their team. They are the Fan Advantage. Alongside the NHL's 3 stars, we're introducing the NHL 4th star, presented by Geico.
Hi, I'm Katrina Vlasic. I'm a lifelong Blackhawks fan and the NHL's 4th star of the month, presented by Geico. Go Hawks! To every game, I wear my Hockey Fights Cancer jersey. I've created some Team Murray bands to help fans show our support for Troy Murray, a longtime Blackhawk who's battling cancer. I absolutely love coming to games. Welcome to the neighborhood. Let's go in. There's a group of us fans that are known as the 300 Level Family, and we're quite proud of that.
Oh, Team Hawk.
Team Hawk, love it. Being the 4th star is a pretty big deal, and I'm pretty excited about it. If you want to give the Blackhawks a fan advantage, come ready to cheer and wear your favorite sweater.
Coming up next, we are halfway through the NHL season, and there's a ton of teams in the East that don't know if they want to be prima donna perfects or playoff contenders. Bruce tells us why you can't just think you want it next.
3 stars of the month is presented by Geico. Switch and save. Get more with Geico.
Welcome back. You can't just think you want it, you gotta want it, right? As a great coach once said.
He said that in 2010. Yeah, but it's true. Like, I mean, what we're talking about is the playoffs.
Eastern Conference is literally up for grabs. It feels like anybody at this point could grab that final playoff
Well, it
spot.
seems like, 4 weeks ago that it was cut and dried. These are the 4 teams that are going to make the East. Now, out of the 16 teams. Like, I mean, everybody it seems like is in it, except for maybe the Sabres and even the Islanders. But the Islanders won last game, so they're back in it.
Everybody except the Sabres right now within 4 points of that second wild card spot. So you look at these teams. Who do you want to talk about? Who intrigues you as maybe a team that's on the outside of the playoff picture right now, looking in that could jump up and grab that spot? You think the Penguins are a team that could stay in that second wild card spot with the way they're playing and trending right now?
Well, I would have never said the Penguins.
Yep.
Okay, and I've said that all year. I didn't think they were good enough to make the playoffs. But it's been 5 or 6 weeks now that they've been on the same way or playing the same way and competing so hard. So I'm not tuning them out right now. I don't think Detroit can sustain what they've been doing. But I mean, and I've still always liked Ottawa. Listen, Ottawa's going to, when this road trip is over now, they won. They were 4-1, I think, and which is great when you've got a 9-game road trip. Now that they get to come home for a little while, but I mean, I still think they're the team to beat in the East to get to the wild card. I don't think. I think Montreal's doing fabulous. That they've won 6 out of their last 7, but I don't know if it's sustainable. I think Montreal's year is next year.
Yep.
I think so. I mean, but the Rangers, we talked about them till we're blue in the face. You just never know what you're getting with the Rangers from game 1 to game 2 to, I mean, Louis Dominguez is playing in net. Like, I mean, I don't think you can sustain winning if he's going to play too many games.
Right.
But so who knows who's going to win that Atlantic or win the East or get into the playoffs? Right. I'd love it to be Pittsburgh because I think the world wants to see Sidney Crosby in the playoffs at least one more time. But right now, it's too tough to call for me.
What do you make of the Boston Bruins right now, sitting 3rd in the Atlantic? They made that coaching change. They got that bump, but it feels like the last couple of games kind of coming back down to the team that we saw start this season. Are they a team of the 6 teams that are solidified? Whether it's the Atlantic or the Metro, is that the one team that you could see kind of dropping out, or is there another team up there?
You know what? It's funny, but in my opinion I think they could drop out. I didn't have them making the playoffs in the first place because I just don't think there's enough scoring. Pasternak's starting to score, but I mean, and Marchand is playing hard. But I mean, after that, who scores for that team? Lindholm, he's scored a couple goals lately, but he's been dry most of the year. Charlie Coyle hasn't been scoring like he can. All these guys that had career years last year are not having them this year, which is why I guess they call them career years.
Yeah.
I mean, and their defense hasn't been as shut down as it's been. That has been what it has kept them going. Not the scoring. Yeah, Bergeron and Krejci help, but let's not forget Krejci's last year he scored 7 goals. I mean, it's not like he was a house on fire.
Right.
He was good in the playoffs, but they could shut teams down, and they're not doing it this year, and they're not getting the scoring. I think they could easily fall out right now. I don't know what their schedule is in the next few games, but I mean, they haven't been good lately. I think they're 0-3-1 in their last 4, and they gotta really play hard and kitty bar the door type thing if they're going to succeed, and I don't know if they have it in them this year.
For the teams like Ottawa, Columbus, Montreal, Philly, Detroit, the teams that are in there that maybe pundits outside of that room say, this is not the year, it's down the road. What's the messaging inside that room from the coach's perspective? Are you throwing up the standings saying, guys, this is within striking distance, this is up for grabs right now?
It's funny, I always used to be able to find something to motivate to say why, even especially when they were thinking that it wasn't possible. I'd say, here's our next 5 games. Here's the teams we have to beat. It's their 5 games. If we win 3 out of this, we're going to gain 2 points or 4 points, and we're going to be right there. So, I mean, I think you can always find positive aspects to make them believe. As an outsider, I'm saying these guys, I don't think they're going to make it or in that.
Our perspective, you do the math sometimes, and you're like, look, they got 5 teams to jump. They're 3 games behind. This team's got games in hand. I assume that's not your messaging inside that room.
When you're in there, you're saying, hey, you know what? It doesn't look like we're going to make it. You're fighting till the last second, and you're making everything sound like it's doable. That's the biggest thing is if I, as a coach, can make the players believe that they can make it, then it's a doable thing. If they don't believe it, then they're not going to be able to make it. But I mean, in this case, I think that there's so many teams that are still viable. Like, I mean, if I was in Buffalo, I would still make it believe that they could make it.
For sure.
I mean, they got to go on a run. They went on three. They won 3 in a row, but now they lost 3 in a row. So I mean, but it's possible. There's 41 games left.
Yeah.
If you're giving up halfway through the season, like, I mean, that's not a good sign. I mean, you might have to win 30 out of 41, but that's possible.
Yeah, it's
so
good.
I mean, you got to keep giving the teams hope and making the players believe that they can win. And if not, you're in trouble.
I'm fired up. You can't just think you want it. You got to want it.
You got to want it.
Who wants it in the East? We don't know, but there's a whole lot of teams vying for that final wild card spot in the East. When we come back, how about this? Former teammates and Stanley Cup champions pulling pranks on each other over the weekend. Yeah, wait till you hear what went down between Sidney Crosby and Marc-Andre Fleury in Raleigh. That's next. Welcome back. How's this for shenanigans? Wild insider from the Athletic Minnesota. Marc-Andre Fleury pranks Sidney Crosby, prospects at the World Juniors, and more. So more on those two former teammates going at it down in Raleigh. How about this? When Crosby arrived at the game Sunday night against Carolina, he discovered, we're told, Vaseline all over his visor, his skate laces upside down, and beef sticks inside his jock. I just had a little fun. Fleury told The Athletic, laughing, "Wait, I've said too much. It wasn't me. I wasn't there." Of course, Marc-Andre Fleury has a very lengthy resume when it comes to being one of the best pranksters in the NHL. So both teams down in Raleigh to take on the Carolina Hurricanes. And apparently Sidney Crosby found out that Fleury and the Wild were staying at the same hotel. So Fleury was at the rink for his game, and Crosby and company decided to get access to Marc-Andre Fleury's room, move the furniture around a little bit. And Fleury was nonetheless pleased, so decided to seek a little revenge on his former teammates.
I think this is such a great story, and it goes to tell you, once you've been on championship teams together, you're friends for life. And I mean, a lot of guys, you couldn't get away with that. But they got away, and they probably both had a great laugh at everybody's expense here, but nobody was mad. It wasn't like, oh, look, I got extra work to do with my skates or visor. I'm sure Sid just sloughed it off. But to see, and we've seen it before, where Marc-Andre has taken all the furniture out of the room.
Terrorize people.
Yes, and I've never had him as a teammate, but he sounds like he'd be so much fun, but at the same time so serious when he had to be serious.
That's the thing, right? He's the ultimate competitor on the ice, and then off the ice, he sounds like the ultimate teammate as well.
Sounds like.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know him, but
everything you hear about the guy,
everything you hear about is positive.
Yeah.
Yep.
Speaking of hearing about things, you've been behind the bench for a long, long time. Have you ever heard this story coming from the KHL? Take a look at this. Player playing in a KHL game. What's that on the, what? That, a phone fell out of his pants. Bruce, behind the bench, and you're coaching this guy, and you see a phone. He's got a cell phone that needs to be handed back to him. What the heck are you thinking?
I know what I'm thinking. That guy's not playing anymore.
His time on ice has been reduced.
Time on ice is being reduced.
Unbelievable.
Right away. That's funny and sad all at the same time.
Maybe he was in the Football Championship Fantasy Football League and needed to keep tabs. That'll do it for us. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow on NHL Tonight, First Shift.